Winners of 16 of their last 20. They just swept the Arizona Diamondbacks at home for their fourth sweep of the season. They are a season high 7 games over 500. They are the St. Louis Cardinals, and this is Cardinal Territory. Welcome back. Bernie, I got to say, it's the night before Memorial Day, and I did not necessarily think that I would ever say at this time that the Cardinals would be 7 games over 500. I know we've talked about it. I know I said I wanted to wait till the end of May. I'm going to call it, though. I'm going to call it a little early. I think the St. Louis Cardinals are a good baseball team.
I agree with you because, listen, even if we include that opening stretch, the opening, 25 games, they were 10 and 15. Even if we include sort of the numbers that weren't all that hot, obviously, during that time, they're still pretty much a top 10 team in everything you really want to look at. Runs per game and starting pitching ERA, bullpen ERA. Bullpen ERA might be more like 11 or 12, but so what? Still upper half, top 10. And also some of the hitting categories. So I think if you – even with all of your bad stretch of baseball, with 25 games, man, first 25, even with all of that baked in, and you're still you still rate very well among the 30 teams in most of the categories that matter, I would say you're a good team.
Here's why. I think when we looked at what they've done over May, we've had like incremental checkpoints through each week, right? It was, okay, well, can they figure out how to play on the road? Or, okay, well, they swept the Pirates and the Nationals. Can they play against better teams? Well, then they go and they take 2 of 3 from Philly and they hold their own against Kansas City and Detroit. And now they sweep the Diamondbacks. And now it's like we keep putting up little tests for them and they keep acing them. Good teams win in the ways that the Cardinals have done in the month of May. They have a good defense. Mm-hmm. They have a pitching staff coming into games today. The Cardinals rotation had allowed 2 runs or fewer in 13 of their last 16 games. Now it's 13 of their last 17 because Sonny Gray gave up 3. Oh, right. But it's been great. You have an offense where it's a different person every night. And that's something that Oli Marmol's talked about over the weekend. He said, it's hard for me to just pick one person because every night we're talking about a different guy. And they win games the same way they lose them, in a way where it's tight, it's quick. I don't know. They just do all these things that makes me feel like I'm watching a good baseball team. And they sold me. They sold me this weekend. I think they are a good team.
And yeah, because one of the things, they couldn't win the 1-run games early, and one of the main reasons the Cardinals were good last year, as far as getting into a winning column for the season, they were real good at 1-run decisions. And as you know, it didn't start off that well this year. It was they were 0-5. Mm-hmm. Now, since then, they're 10-3 in 1-run games, which including every game in this Arizona series. So when you're playing a good team, and they are a good team, their record doesn't show it because they've had to play the Dodgers so much and things like that. Arizona's a good club. When you can, you have like basically 3 games that were up for grabs, like in the late innings, and you come out of there with a win in all 3, and you're not even using your designated closer Sunday because you couldn't. And Phil Maton got into some trouble but worked out of it. I mean, yeah, when you win the close games, listen, the Cardinals can bomb you and win that way. They can beat you with really good pitching. And then when maybe the offense has to really grind it together. I think that was the case in all 3 of these games. Mm-hmm. It wasn't easy. They had to grind, right? And then your bullpen, which has had a couple of shaky moments, but they lock it up. And you win these 1-run games the way they have. I mean, 10 out of the last 13 1-run games, that's the sign of a really good baseball team. I know some people that are friends of mine, even who are analysts, that say, well, 1-run games tend to be random. Not with this team, because they couldn't win 1-run games early because the bullpen was terrible. There was a direct root cause of it. And once they hit their stride in all these other areas, now they're exceptional at 1-run games. So I think that's a good test too. And they're clearly, they know what they're doing against good teams. I don't know whether this is the up-to-date record, but they're like 14-11 against teams over 500. But let's do this real quick, and then I'll shut up. They have series wins over Arizona, over Kansas City, over Houston, over Milwaukee, which was a winning team at the time.
Right.
Minnesota, They have a series win over the Mets. They have 2 series wins over Philadelphia. I mean, I think that
I think the resume is pretty good.
yeah, I don't think they need there's nothing there that says, oh no, they can't beat good teams. Of course they can. It doesn't mean that, when they play the Dodgers, they won't lose a series. This is a loss of well played series to Detroit. I mean, no one's saying they're invincible, obviously, but yeah, this stuff, it just blows me away how good they are. That's what blows me away. It isn't just that they're good, but they're this good. And the way it's happening, I am pleasantly stunned, I guess is the way to put it.
Yes, I'm not even surprised. I am sitting there and I don't in kind of disbelief. And I think you made a great point about the offense. That's a well-pitched series from Arizona on the other side. I mean, they have 3 quality starters. Their bullpen is good. And the offense was so gritty and so versatile and took some great quality at bats and manufactured offense when they needed to. And winning teams do that. Winning teams are versatile. Winning teams find different ways to win games. And we've seen that all throughout May. The Cardinals have played. The only thing consistent about how they won is that it's their tenacity. But they can bang it out. They can play really tight defense. They can win the 1-0 ball game. They can win the 10-5 routes. It's made for a very, very fun May. And again, I mean, just going through it and being patient, and you don't want to jump the gun. You don't want to overreact, especially in my position as a beat writer, you have to be objective and kind of take at these large sample sizes. I think the month of May has been enough. And health matters, of course, and you can still question the sustainability of a couple of things like the rotation. They haven't really had to get their depth tested. This is something that I'm going to be watching in June. The Cardinals were aided a little bit by their schedule, having an off day every Thursday. You didn't really need to take any days off for your regulars. You could put your best lineup out there every single day. Well, they have 2 whole off days in June, one of them being June 2nd. So from June 2nd to the end of the month, there is 1 off day. So the Cardinals will have to rest some of their regulars. Their bench depth will be tested there. We'll get to that in June. Right now, what the Cardinals have done is they've given themselves a cushion. The Cubs are playing great baseball too. So it's, they're staying right there at the top of the division. It's been super fun to watch. I've enjoyed it. We'll get into this later in the show. The atmosphere at Busch Stadium this weekend was so much fun. Again, before we get into our next segment, Bernie, I think that this summer is going to go a lot differently than many of us might have planned. And a big name behind that is that we're going to be watching is Jordan Walker. So let's start this new segment. Spoiler alert. I might not be great at it, but let's hear from Arena Club, our player to watch. So Jordan Walker on Saturday, great game offensively. He's been working relentlessly on just pretty much everything on all sides of the ball, right? And he's been very candid about his struggles. Oli Marmol's been very candid about what Jordan's been going through with Brant Brown, the same thing. It's just trying to get everyone convicted and on the same page. And he comes through on Saturday. Big hits, big swings. The defense was a little weird, a very unorthodox defensive inning for the Cardinals across the board. For Jordan Walker to be able to come through not once, but twice in that game, the quality of bats are getting better. He's hitting the heck out of the baseball. The exit velo is almost always in the triple digits. What are you seeing from Jordan, Bernie? Because he looks like he's getting a little better.
Well, he's starting to get some traction offensively. A couple of huge hits. Going all the way back to that Saturday night in Kansas City, and then this weekend, he came up big Saturday and Sunday. So that's what you wanted from him. You just wanted to see him to get something going, get some confidence, get some traction. And I think he's starting to show that. And listen, I know he's had a couple of shaky moments recently in right field, but he is one of the reasons why they have by easily the best defense in the majors, which is another thing, as you know, the Cardinals do exceptionally well. It's amazing. And he's been part of that defensive improvement. So it's a real small sample, but I'm really happy by what we've seen from him in the last 6 or 7 games or so. It might be 5. I didn't work up any stats for that, but look, we just know he's getting big hits and he's getting hits, period. So that's really good stuff. And you can tell he's exhaling a little bit too. So
of course. And when you look at Jordan Walker, let's go through his splits right now over his last 15 games. 250, but the slugging is 375. He has driven in 11 runs, so that's pretty good. You look at the last 7 games, though, hitting 412, slug is up to 706. And it's going to be like this with Jordan. We've talked about it. It's going to be some up and down, some gradual progression, some decline. That's the whole point of the season. But what is different about Jordan this year is how much he's buying into the messaging. Where in years prior, I'm not at all suggesting that he was defiant by any means. That's not the case. But you can understand how a 22-year-old at the time, 21-year-old in years prior, would have some sort of, I think it would be natural to have a little bit of reservations about the organization, given how things had gone for him in his development. And having new voices come in, like Brant Brown, like John Jay, and give everyone a clean slate. And Oli Marmol's done a heck of a job with his young roster as well. And just allow Jordan to have the opportunity to trust in the organization again. If they don't see this buy-in from Jordan, they're not committing to him. They're not, plain and simple, especially with so many other younger players taking steps forward. But because they see the buy-in from Jordan, because they see the commitment, because he's putting in the work, they're going to continue to reward him with this opportunity. That's the whole point of the season. And I think we get so caught up in the transition year of players seizing their opportunity, whether that's Ivan Herrera or Matthew Liberatore or Brendan Donovan. Just because Jordan Walker isn't seizing the opportunity in the box score right now necessarily doesn't mean that their plan for him won't be successful. I actually think this is just as important in the long-term view than the short-term view. No, he's had a really bad May. The end of April was really bad as well. But he's continuing to develop from a mental standpoint. He's bought back into the organization. They've done a great job keeping him focused. That's what I'm looking at for Jordan Walker. And maybe this week was a sign that both things are finally clicking into one.
Well, I'm glad you had those stats from the last 7 days, because I didn't see. You're trying to steal my job, Katie. I resent it. I'm supposed to be the stat nerd. No, thank you for that. But as you were talking, and I was agreeing with everything you said, but I was thinking of those numbers over the last 7 games. 412 average, 706 slug. When's the last time he had a 7-game stretch like that? I mean, it's only 7, but that also says like how big of a hole he has been in. He couldn't climb out of it. He had like two good games, 2 or 3 good games at the very top of the season. Last year he put a few good games together late, but that's a really good 7-game stretch, because he's been everything but that over many 7-game stretches. So it's a good. But I see, this is where Oli gets a lot of credit, not just for his role in what he does as a manager, but as a leader. But I think you and I touched on this recently. Look at the coaching staff he put together. And these are people he wanted. These are people he recruited. These are people he sought recommendations about who should I hire? Brant Brown, Skip Schumacher, who we all trust, said, oh, you got to hire this guy. He's great. He was my guy in Miami when I won Manager of the Year. He's great. John Jay, great. Daniel Descalzo already shown he knows what he's doing.
He could manage one.
Yeah, Brant Brown. And, I think Dusty Blake, I used to make fun of him. And, I've apologized for this, because I told you this before. I just see him in the dugout with the iPad. And I'm like, well, what is he? He's always looking at the iPad. I called him Coach iPad. Totally. It was like totally wrong. Me being a smart aleck, he's really good. He's really good. I did a video this past week, and I explained why they are pitching so well despite not striking a lot of people out. And it's not an accident. They're doing everything you need to do to offset a lack of strikeouts. According to that, Enos Harris and some others came up with that thing called, it's like pitching stuff plus, location plus. The Cardinals pitchers, location plus. It's basically as it sounds. Do you have the control to get the ball where you want it to go, right? If you have a spot, you hit that spot. They were, as of midweek, there were only 3 pitching staffs in baseball that had a better location rating. So you say, well, how can they pitch so well? They don't strike people out because they get a lot of ground balls. Where the highest percentages of ground balls go? Left side of the infield. Bad hitters. You don't want to go there. They don't walk anybody. They walk. They have one of the lowest walk rates in Major League Baseball, and they have one of the lowest home run rates allowed in Major League Baseball. So they're doing, like, if you would put a list of things together, you have to do, even though you're only striking out 19%, which is just so bad. But if you put a list, well, you got to thread the needle, but here's how you do it. They have done every single one of those things. Now they're going to have to do it through the end of the season, but it's really impressive. And Dusty Blake's got a lot to do with that.
I agree. I've always really enjoyed my conversations with Dusty Blake because I find him to be so intelligent, and there's so many behind the scenes metrics and analytics and tools to look at pitching and what makes a pitcher good on paper versus on the mound. And Dusty can explain things where a simple mind person like myself can really understand it. And I understand why fans weren't buying in, because you're only going to buy into the results that you see. And in 23, especially, and in 24, there weren't a ton of results to go from. This year, though, and this is a credit to Dusty and his pitchers who have been so candid in their explanations on why this is important, why location and pitching to contact works, how they're going to get more swing and miss. You're able to, one, understand because you have some background information, and two, you see it on the field, and it's so much easier to buy in now. So I'm glad the pitching staff looks the way that it does. I mean, they fixed Jojo Romero in a matter of 10 days. Matthew Liberatore, I mean, he's arguably the best pitcher in the rotation. Andre Palante, I know the ERA doesn't jump off the page, but there's a ton of growth being made there as well. It's a lot of things going right with this coaching staff. And honestly, I think we should dive a little bit more into that. But first, let's hear from Cash App.
Kratz, I'm going to let everyone in on a little secret. I am not a fan of carrying around physical cash. I go Cash App, where you can send, receive, or transfer money with family and friends. It's super easy. They've got your back too. Like if you're trying to send some money and you maybe put in the wrong account name, they'll be like, hey, this is a sketchy account. Are you sure you want to send this? Cash App has your back. They do it safe, securely, easily, and fee-free.
And all you got to do is download the app, and Scott can actually pay for his half of dinner.
Exactly. For a limited time only, new Cash App users can use our exclusive code to earn some additional cash. For real, there's no catch. Download Cash App, sign up. It's very easy, and use our exclusive referral code Territory in your profile. Send $5 to a friend within 14 days, and you'll get $10 dropped right into your account. Terms apply. That's money. That's Cash App.
So I'll be candid here. After the game today, we're recording this Sunday night. I went into Oli Marmol's office and I said, I have a compliment for you. And I'm not great with compliments. I'm kind of a smart ass. But I said, I think that you and your staff have done a commendable job, a really good job getting this team on track. And let's think about what Oli Marmol and his staff had to deal with coming into the season. Minimal roster upgrades, an organization going out there and saying, our priority is the long term, not the short term. And hey, by the way, Ollie and company, you need to play all of these players and figure out a way to get every single person consistent playing time so that we know how to move forward with them in the future or without them in the future. And you also, we're not like tanking because we don't do that. We're the Cardinals. You also still have to figure out a way to be relevant and hopefully win games. So we're not going to help you in any regards. Go get them. Yeah, and it was rough in April. And he was put in, a really tough spot, playing some guys like Gorman, Walker every day, even though they were struggling, sitting a hotter bat in Burleson. You go down the list and something clicked, and a lot of it is the credit to the players, but players don't have that buy-in unless they believe in their coaching staff and the work that these guys do behind the scenes, whether that's Ollie, whether it's Scouse, Jay, Stubby Clapp, Dusty, Pop Warner, go down the list, has allowed the team to buy in to themselves and the coaching staff. And now you're seeing what happens when there's a collective buy-in across the board. That doesn't happen by accident. That's an intentional effort by the coaching staff that said, hey, yeah, all the exterior things happening right now that are not going to work with us, screw that. We don't care. We can build our own culture here. And that's what they did. And I think the coaching staff deserves a ton of credit for turning it around in May.
They absolutely do, because the players, coaches tend to come and go. And, frankly, I don't think the Cardinals have had the best coaching staff that they could put together at times, 23, even to an extent 24. Although, again, Descalso was a big help to Ollie in 24, and it also helped lead him to some other guys. But anyway, I'm getting off track. But you can tell, even Nolan Gorman, all right, he hasn't gotten the payoff yet. And partially because it's like they're investing more in Burleson, as they should. But, Gorman has actually made progress in a way that doesn't show up in batting average and slugging percentage. I mean, he chases less, he strikes out less. he walks more. I mean, his plate discipline's really good. And so even though there's not a finished product where you say, oh, wow, he's hitting 280 with a 488 slug, even though that's not there yet, some of his bad habits have been smoothed out. And that's a big step, which you think would lead to the actual box score results. So we'll see. But Walker has been really, really tough to try to get him settled in, but I think he's figuring it out. But I know Miles Mikolas, for example, kind of self-diagnosed in a lot of ways. Yeah, he's self-diagnosed, but he also did it with help from Dusty Baker and Oli Marmol. I mean, they Dusty laid out, well, this is where you get in trouble, and this is what you're going to have to do. And Miles Mikolas, who's a prideful guy, he doesn't want to be a guy with a 5+ ERA. He made the changes he needed to make. They made recommendations to Liberatore about, you have to. What's he throwing more? I always get those things confused. Is he throwing the cutter more or the slider more? One of the two.
His pitch mix hasn't totally changed a bunch,
right.
But it ultimately depends on the outing. So It's more of an even mix, but there is sometimes an emphasis on the cutter, sometimes an emphasis on the sinker. So
they've made recommendations to players that you can see the results, the positive results, and that's really something that's. You got to give them credit to. This team's got a shared mindset. They got a shared philosophy. They have a shared personality. Everybody's on the same page, and it's really, really cool to see. And the other thing I like about this team, if I could just throw this out here, is that when you have an underdog team that no one thinks is going to do anything, right? A lot of doom and gloom, St. Louis and elsewhere, national writers, and I don't blame them. They just weren't expecting the Cardinals to be anything, really. Well, you need some surprises. You need some people all right, if I would have told you at the end of last season, Ms. Katie Woo, if I would have told you, so, well, with all due respect to Sonny Gray, in terms of the two most important things that have happened with this rotation, what if I told you, Katie, by Memorial Day, Miles Mikolas would have like a 2.05 ERA since that start in Boston or whatever it is, and Matthew Liberatore, who has never been given a full-time opportunity to start, that he would have a better fielding independent ERA than Paul Skeens, Max Fried, Chris Sales, Zach Wheeler, on and on and on. He's a top 10 major league starter. So I don't know who played that ticket. Like, basically, in a way, their two best starters, especially when I'm not doing a good job explaining this. Their two best starters in terms of wildly exceeding expectations are Liberatore and Mikolas. To use a horse racing term, like, who had that exact ticket? I wouldn't have. It's not that I thought Liberatore would stink. It's just we had to see it. We didn't know, right?
Well, I didn't think they were going to give him the opportunity in the first place. So that was already where I was having some doubts. And coming off 2 years where it doesn't look good. And, people on the show know this. I really like and enjoy covering Miles Mikolas. I find him to be very refreshing, very honest, prideful, but understanding of what the expectations are. And to be able to see two different guys, right? Like Miles Mikolas go out there and have a turning point in the season and say, like, this is not working. I want to help win games. I don't want to be a reason we're not. And turning that around after over a decade of service time, making a career out of something he was good at, now at 36 years old, saying it's either adapt or get out. He adapted. Then you have on the whole other side, Liberatore just starting his career as a starting pitcher. They give him this opportunity. We've talked about this. They allow him to go out there and fail if he has to, and he rewards them by seizing the opportunity and running with it. I mean, it's two completely different ends of the spectrum. Right. The same result is these guys took this challenge to heart. They had a staff that was willing to back them up, and now you're reaping the rewards. I mean, Miles Mikolas, people are going to hate this one. He's a formidable middle of the rotation arm. Yes. And from almost every single stat that you use to evaluate success, sure, the analytics or the expected stats suggest that a drop-off is coming, but it hasn't so far. So I would never have guessed this. In fact, if you would have told me what you just said, Bernie, I would have asked you, like, what kind of drugs are you on? I would love to try it, right?
Exactly. There's just no way. And Mikolas has been really, really good. I mean, I was looking up some metrics. I'm not going to read them to you, but those pitches he used to leave off the plate. No, I'm sorry, that he would get too much of the plate. He's now doing very well on those pitches. They're shadow pitches. They're just off the plate. He's done very well with them, and he realizes now what the deal is, and he's savvy enough to set the hitters up, but he's not going to feed them strikes when they're expecting strikes to come. He's just not going to do it. And I just think he deserves a lot of credit. So you mentioned the buy-in. Miles Mikolas totally has bought in, and the one thing that surprised me in a way is, like, I'll just reference Cam Wax because I'm on there a lot, and this past week we must have got 2 or 3 comments from listeners, which is fine, but they say they can't understand why, hey, Miles Mikolas is pitching great. Why does Oli take him out after 60, 65 pitches?
Life is fast. The narrative changed so fast.
Oh my goodness. And it's just, I said if Oli wasn't doing that, it would actually be managerial malpractice. And you know what? You know who agrees with that? Miles Mikolas. See, Miles Mikolas, he's got a lot of pride. He doesn't, if he's pitching a good game and he's going 5, or even if he's going 5 2/3, or he's going, any pitcher who believes in himself is not going to like being taken out. But Miles completely understands why, and he can look at the numbers as well. And you don't want him in there third time through the lineup. That's his disaster zone. So why would I don't understand why people want to squeeze more out of Mikolas when Oli and Dusty Blake and Miles himself, they're getting the maximum out of him. So why in the world would you want to change the formula?
Well, why do you think Miles Mikolas is doing so well?
Right.
Because they're managing the workload, the execution, the game plan. And yes, he is producing and performing. Of course, I'm obviously not going to suggest otherwise. But part of the reason why his ERA is lowered now to 3.5, 2.15 since that start against Boston is because they're taking him out at the right spots. And they've extended some sort of a longer leash in situations where he's warned it. You think about that game in Kansas City, he goes third time through the order. That's not something that he had done in years or in weeks prior, but he pitched so well and had been so effective that Oli and Dusty said, let's reward him. Let's give him an opportunity. He gets through the inning. It's not going to happen like that every single time, but Miles has he's so efficient, right? So he has a low pitch count. That's all you see. If you see, why is your manager taking out the starting pitcher? He's at 75 pitches after 6 innings. It's bigger than that, though. And how they've been managing Miles is exactly why he's had, a good portion of the success that he has had so far. And we'll see how this rotation looks. They'll have a weird matchup in Baltimore and then Texas as well coming up on this 6-game road trip. We'll break that down for you after another quick message from our pals at Arena Club.
I just want to say, before Arena Club, if you were trying to very actively buy, sell, trade, it was very complicated and used a lot of mail that was unnecessary.
Yeah, I didn't even know how to do it, but I'm glad we have Arena Club now because it's a one-stop shop for everything card related.
It is, and right now you can get 20% off your first slab pack or your first card purchase by going to arenaclub.com/FOUL. Use code FOUL. If you're a collector, you've got to check out Arena Club. Go get after it.
All right, so some programming notes. I will not be with the team in Baltimore. I will take a series off. I get one a month, and it was this one. And I'll meet the team in Doubt, Arlington before Friday's game. But things I'm looking at right now, it's not great in Baltimore. That Baltimore team reminds me a lot of the 2023 Cardinals, and just no pitching, things off the rails, no direction. They already fired their manager. How about this, Bernie? Not that I would ever suggest this. I would never want this for anybody. But would you have guessed that Oli Marmol would have had a job over Derek Shelton, Bud Black, and Brandon Hyde?
Probably not.
Probably not. But here
Probably not. Especially Brandon Hyde. And it's not like Bud Black or Derek Shelton had a chance either. And with Brandon Hyde, I can kind of understand it. It was a weird team. That's a team that whatever the things that we attribute to the Cardinals having is collective mindset. They're great competitors. They grind. They're intense. You get them down in a game, they're gonna rise up and try to fight back. And all the connection between the coaches, the manager, and the players is really, really strong. I mean, you can see that alignment. That's a word that became a buzzword like in college football. Well, they have the alignment from the university president all the way down to the position coaches. We have an alignment. The Cardinals have an alignment. They really do. The Orioles, from what I can tell, and I follow them sort of closely because it's a team I grew up with, my brother, who will be there tomorrow, by the way.
Fun.
They're big fans. And he just said, I don't know what their philosophy is. I don't know what they stand for. What's their identity? They're just like okay, let's go play. It's like there's nothing. The Cardinals have these qualities you can point to. So yeah, but the only thing is that and they've been awful, but they have won 2 in a row. So hope they're not getting there for the Cardinals' sake.
Ooh,
Not
2 in
get
a row.
not starting to feel the ropes a little bit, but that's baseball, right? That's baseball. Who in the world thought the Cardinals would be sitting here on Memorial Day Eve, not only a better record than the Orioles, but a much better record than the Orioles, right? Who would have thought that? Who would have thought, I'm going to throw this one out again, who would have thought that as we sit here at Memorial Day 2025, then since Craig Counsell became the Cubs manager at the start of 2024, who would have bet that Oli Marmol would only have 2 fewer wins than Craig Counsell, right? And Craig Counsell with every advantage a manager could ask for, right? Every advantage a manager can ask for, but yet Ollie's only won 2 fewer games. So it's about time that he gets, and the coaches, they get credit. If we are going to rip them collectively, fans, media, whomever, if we're going to point fingers and rip them when things are going wrong, I do not understand, nor do I respect the people that hold praise when he deserves praise. You can't have it both ways. You can't blame him when they're going bad. Oh, it's the manager. He's terrible. But when they're playing great baseball and the team's fired up and they have a great personality, they have an identity, they have a great coaching staff, everyone's on the same page. The energy level's fantastic. So what? They're doing this in spite of the manager? Is anyone who's got a reasonably sane person, is anyone trying to do that? They're doing it in spite of the manager? I don't think so. And as you know, I haven't held back when I think Ollie's messing up some stuff, but that has nothing to do with like the sweeping judgment. Oh, he's terrible. No, I just thought he made a mistake there. There's a difference, right? So anyway, I had to get on my soapbox there because I think fans are coming around on this team and on him. I do.
Well, that's a perfect segue into what will be our last segment.
Okay.
Busch Stadium. I did a piece at The Athletic over the weekend about improving the in-game experience because there are several investments being made. And before we get into that, yes, I know the best way to get fans back at the ballpark is by winning ball games. I know that. But as someone who, is still in her 20s, if I go to a baseball game, I want an entertainment product too. And for the last couple of years, respectfully to everyone working there, I have a ton of friends that work there, the experience felt very stale. And it just felt like it could have been so much better because I think Busch Stadium is one of the most beautiful stadiums in baseball. I don't think there's a bad seat. I love that you're there for a baseball game, and I love the fans in Busch Stadium. They are fantastic. But man, it just felt like they hadn't upgraded anything in years. And they're really trying to appeal to a younger generation, a younger demographic in their 20s and 30s. So this is somewhere that my friends and I fit into. But also instilling the same kind of tradition and modern baseball game that their longtime fans have been accustomed to. So it's a tough line to draw, but I think they're doing a nice job in trying to figure out what works there. But what I really saw of what works there is winning baseball, because the atmosphere at Busch Stadium this weekend was electric. I was locked in on every pitch, and I had players telling me after the game, sending me texts after the game, like the atmosphere at Busch was great. Friday, Saturday, even today with some rainy weather, I feel like the city of St. Louis is buying back into their Cardinals team. And I hope they are, because it just makes things so much more fun when you have, you have a come from behind victory in the 8th inning, or you have your closer blowing doors to save the game in the 9th. You have your third baseman diving into the stands to make a play to save the game. Like, just hearing the fan reaction from that, it just solidifies the experience so much better. So while I commend the Cardinals for the changes they're making to the in-game experience, go check that out on The Athletic if you choose. I also commend the fans for coming back to the ballpark and making Busch Stadium feel like Busch Stadium again.
No, because it's a special place when it's right. And it's been really depressing to see the empty sea of red. And it really is. It's frustrating. It's depressing. People have the right to spend their money as they want. There are some reasons for people to be frustrated and disillusioned. But then when the team that's actually on the field is this exciting, is this charming, is this likable, and they play the style of baseball that St. Louisans of a certain age love and always harken back to, when Tony's teams did this, Whitey's teams did this, and I get it. That's okay. These teams are showing, like, we're talking about characteristics. They haven't accomplished anything yet, but they're showing those kind of style points and characteristics that we as St. Louis and the baseball fans going way back claim that's the thing. Those are the things we love about a team. And this team has a lot of those factors. So, yeah, I was going to tell you, I read the story and I liked it, and I thought you did a great job. And I also appreciated their candor in talking about basically, like, well, we don't have an answer yet. We're going to be trying different things. We're going to be experimenting.
Right.
And that's the way to do it. That's the way to do it. So I always read the comment section under your pieces, because I think you have a very loyal readership, which doesn't surprise me. But man, Katie, your peoples, they were going nuts over that. They were just blasting everybody.
Yeah, I caught a couple strays with that one.
Yeah, I mean, again, I get a lot of why people are fed up, but if they're making an effort to get young fans in, and the baseball experience is actually separate of whether the team that is 7 games above 500 or 500 or a few games below, you still want to have a great ballpark experience. So my thing is, well, let them try this. Did it take them too long to kind of realize, well, wait a minute, we're a little outdated here, okay? They were like somebody walking around using a BlackBerry. It's like, yo, nobody uses BlackBerries already, right? Yeah. So I am not going to, like, I will foam at the mouth about a lot of stuff. I will not foam at the mouth when an organization's trying to do something, and they're even being straightforward and say, well, we're not sure, what that magic spot is, or you're like, what that magic touch is, but we're not sure, but we're going to try a lot of things. We're going to see what, the response to this or that. I commend them for that. I don't shred them for that. We'll see if it improves over time. But I thought it was a great story. It was very enlightening. And I'm always disappointed as a journalist or as a commentator, whatever the heck you want to call me. I'm always disappointed when, in effect, somebody like you takes the time to do all that talk and to talk to all them and get all this feedback. And they're very, very candid with you, and they're like laying it on the line, and they're telling you exactly where they went wrong. They're owning up to it. Okay, we got to do this. We got to do that. This is the base. This is the age groups we have to be more appealing to. But, and in effect, for being honest, it got them a lot of scorn and ridicule. I've never understood that. Do you want these people that we cover to be honest with us? Or do you want them to feed us a bunch of BS?
But that's what we sign up for, right, Bernie? And like, fans
I know,
have the right to feel the way that they do. And I do think once the overall frustration with ownership if it settles down, fans will be able to look at that information in a new light. But right now, I mean, this is the show me state for a reason. They're best fans in baseball for a reason. They have high standards. So for an organization to go out and be like, oh yeah, we're trying to improve the stadium and improve the experience. Here's what we're doing. Of course, the response is going to be like, well, how about you win games and then we'll come? Of course. But what I would encourage fans to do who are skeptical about coming back to the stadium, whatever your reasons may be, is just read it and hear what Cardinals brass is saying, what Bill DeWitt III is saying on, hey, we need to do better for our fan base. Yeah, they need to do better across the board, baseball and business. But these things are they're intertwined. They absolutely are part of the cycle together. So if you want the Cardinals to have a better game day experience, yes, the club needs to be better on the field. But if you want fans to come to the ballpark just for a casual day, you need to give them a reason to. And what we're seeing over the last homestand was that fans are maybe cautiously
having a good time
coming back to the ballpark. So
and just so fans watching this don't misunderstand, because I talk aloud and sometimes it's easy to maybe I fail to make my own point very well. But no, they have every right to expect better and to demand better. My point is, I don't care what anybody that's running a business, it's like there's an obligation to the customers, and customers can feel however they want to feel about something. My point is just, like, before condemning them, just wait and see if it's working. If the stuff at the ballpark gets better. I just don't I've never been the type to just condemn something before anyone's even had a chance to roll out what they're doing. So that's all. That's the only point I made. But if people want to make fun of the Cardinals, make fun of the Cardinals. I mean, it's okay. I don't work for the Cardinals. So yeah, you're not hurting my feelings.
Well, we'll see what this looks like when they come back from the road again. A 6-game, 7-day trip, all interleague games, 3 against the Baltimore Orioles. I don't know why I just call them the Baltimore Ravens. I'm tired. An off day in Arlington on Thursday, and then 3 against the Rangers before coming back for a 10-game homestand at Busch Stadium. Let's see if these Birds can keep it rolling, finish out the month of May strong. As always, Katie and Bernie here to break things down for you. We'll be back with you next week. Thanks as always. Oh my gosh, I almost forgot. This is our 50th episode of Cardinal Territory, which is crazy. I cannot believe anyone has given me a platform for this long. I mean, I still don't know how The Athletic has kept me hired. But before we sign off, thank you, Cardinal Territory subscribers, fans, supporters, whether you're on YouTube, Spotify, Apple, even if you just follow along on Twitter. We can't do this without you. I don't have a job without you. And I really appreciate the support. So here's to another 50 more with better ad reads, at least.
That's part of the entertainment.
Is it?
Yeah, it is.
Oh, well, I'll try to be better.
Nobody wants to see you be perfect. You need to have that. What's the word? What's the phrase I want to use? I was going to say the common man touch. It wouldn't be that. The common person touch. Like, yeah, Katie,
guys.
Yes, all this stuff's new to Katie. Let's see how she does this week, and it's all right. Because listen, if somebody be asking me to push buttons and get the right graphics on the screen, oh my goodness, are you kidding me? You're doing fine. So
if I am anything, you guys, it is entertaining. So hopefully you find this podcast the same way. For Bernie, I'm Katie. We're back with you next week. Thanks as always for watching.